Good morning, guys. My name is Shay. Thank you so much for tuning into the Shay Show. Today we're going to be speaking with Chris Berger. Chris Berger is an old college friend of mine, but he is more recently someone, you know how you get to know someone in their adult life and it's like, wow, we knew each other when we were in college, when we were all trying to figure it out and we don't know what's going on. But then you meet each other outside after you've lived life a little bit. You've gotten married, you've had children, and you start to really realize how astonishing so many of the souls that we knew when we were younger are. So Chris is one of those people. Chris is a corporate exec who is like super big time in Atrium, one of the largest hospitals in America, certainly in the Southeast. He's the head of communications. And he has all these like really fancy titles, but at the core of who Chris is he is a philanthropist. He's an entrepreneur. He's someone who truly cares about this world and making an impactful, holding an impactful space in this world. This is his first time doing a live. So, okay. So there he is, y'all. Let me go get him. Ah! Christopher. You guys, he and his family were over for dinner the other night, and I was like, Christopher, please let me interview you. You are amazing. And he was like, okay, because he's super humble. Christopher, you should see that I asked you to join with me. We're waiting on Christopher. It should be there so you could accept it, Christopher. You should see something that says, Shay Bear would like to share a screen with you. And hey, Jermaine. Oh, I need to talk to you. Miss you. Merry Christmas. Okay. I'm going to try it again with Christopher. Let's see. Let me see it again. Let me go get him. Send request again. You should see it, Christopher. It should come up as a request to share a screen. And there you go.
Oh, it worked. Wow. Imagine that technology.
You are great. I was like, you should see it. It says, please accept it with Shay. Well,
oh, it's fantastic.
Oh, Christopher, thank you so much for sharing this time with me. I was just telling everybody, I was like, you know how you get to know, you knew someone a little in college. You see all these people that you walk past the halls with, you're like, oh, yeah, yeah. But then you get reconnected in adult life and you're like, wow, this guy is amazing. So that's who you are to me. Like I knew you in college. And I believe we even worked in the admissions office kind of right around the same time and
That's
handed
right.
off. And, but as an adult, I was like, God dang, Christopher is amazing. He's just doing it and he's super humble. So what I share with the people is, look, he's this corporate exec, head of communications, blah, blah, blah. Very fancy, y'all. Very fancy. But at the core of who you are, Christopher, what I see in you is you're someone who is truly a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, someone who wants to hold space with other human beings vulnerably, and you want to be impactful. You want to make a difference in this world. And I just truly am amazed at how you took a passion and turned it into a lucrative thing that you're at the tipping point. You're trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I slow this down? So Christopher, I love starting with this. Where are you on this planet?
Where am I? Wow. So like physically?
Yep. I want to know physically where you are, like where you are in this world, country, state, and then space.
Perfect. So I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. And this has been a great place. We've been here for about 5 years now. And it's been a great journey. So yeah, it's fun. We've lived all over the world. And right now this is where we call home.
Awesome. And where are you seated right now, Christopher? I see something behind you. Just curious. Is that a roaster?
And it is. This is my roaster. This is my sample roaster. So this is my baby roaster, and then I have a much larger one at the roastery. But this is the one where we do a lot of sample roasting and try out the beans and do a lot of the small batch orders that come in.
Okay, Chris, what I was telling everybody is you are a corporate exec. So you have like this bifurcated life, as we kind of really all do.
Yeah.
But yours is just really elegant and beautiful. So on one half of your corporate world, what are you? What do you do?
Sure. So for my full-time job, the one that allows me to do all these fun side hobbies, I am Vice President of Enterprise Communication for Atrium Health. And those that aren't familiar with Atrium Health, we are the largest healthcare provider in the Southeast. We have about 42 hospitals, about 1,500 care locations, and have about 70,000 teammates that provide care throughout Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and now up into Virginia a little bit with our recent announcement of Wake Forest Baptist joining us. So
Yeah.
that's an exciting development that we're looking forward to.
And incidentally, Atrium Hospital is where my husband had his kidney transplant. A wonderful team. And you were a huge part of facilitating that and making that a day that felt more homey for my family. So I greatly appreciate that. Chris, so your full-time job is this. Tell me about, how does coffee come into it?
Yeah.
How does that swing?
Yeah. So it's interesting. So about 20 years ago, I graduated from college and I started, went to a fairly, religious university and when I graduated, and during college, you had to sign an honor code. You couldn't drink beer. You couldn't do those type of things. And so naturally, when I graduated, I had to figure out how to homebrew beer.
Right. Buck wild.
So
I remember that honor code.
So anyways, I started brewing beer, but I needed good coffee to put into some coffee beers and couldn't find anything where I really knew where the coffee was coming from. So I started roasting my own coffee, and fast forward 20 years, here I am. And I really, what was happening was I needed something that would take my mind off of work, because I'm the type of individual that, I can really get ingrained into whatever organization that I work for. And I think that's healthy, but I also think it comes to a point where you need something that allows you to refocus. So step away from it for a little bit, and then allow you to refocus and come back even stronger. And that's what coffee was for me. Roasting coffee requires you to be fully involved. You're using every single sense that you have. You're watching the beans as they roast. You're smelling them to make sure that you're not over roasting them or under roasting them. It's everything that you imagine as far as like a really making sure that those beans come out perfect. And what that did for me and continues to do for me is allows me to step away from work, focus my mind and energy on something else. And then when I come back to my work, I feel like I can dedicate much better mind space to whatever I'm trying to tackle. And it's been just something fun for me personally, molding my passions of helping other individuals, making this world a better place. All of those type of things, has come together nicely.
So, Chris, you said something like, you're like, I just got the coffee and I was like, I wanted the coffee, the perfect coffee for my beers. First of all, where does one even get a coffee roaster? Like, I want you to understand how beautiful your mind is that you go, I want a good coffee beer. I mean, there were existing coffee shops at this point. So like the easy route would have been like, hey, Starbucks, let me buy a bag of that. But you go, no, I really am looking for this perfect thing. So what makes you, where does one even find a roaster? What I'm trying to get at is you did not have roasting experience.
Right.
So you would not necessarily know all of the parts that are necessary to, in fact, create a final bean.
Sure.
So what made you think you could and you should?
Well, so I started doing a little bit of research on coffee beans, and what I found was each coffee bean, when roasted to kind of their optimal roast, they actually produce flavors that I didn't even know coffee existed. Like when I always joke with people when we do coffee tastings, it's like, you do a little bit of sip, just like a sommelier, and you're like, ooh,
Yes.
and people are like, I get a little bit of, nutmeg on this side. I'm like, what the hell are you tasting? But
With a
I
little
think,
vanilla note on the side.
yeah, but I'm like, I taste a little bit of coffee on the right, and on the left, I'm getting other notes of coffee.
Right.
And
That
but no,
coffee.
like what I realized was you actually can taste very distinct flavors that come out of coffees. Like in Ethiopian coffee, we have an Ethiopia Sidamo right now that has heavy blueberry notes, and that comes naturally out of the soil, depending on the volcanic ash and all kinds of stuff of how it was processed. Was it naturally processed? Was it and those are the type of things that I started realizing, and then I just started researching online and found, a small little air roaster that was like $100, and little by little just started, that kind of went to the next phase, got a bigger roaster, and then ended up with this about 6, 7 years ago, and then
And
I
you
have
said that
a
this
huge
is
one.
still just your little small sample roaster.
Yeah, this is baby compared to what I have at the actual roastery. Yeah, it's the one at the roastery is much larger.
And where is the roastery?
Yeah, so we are located inside Indian Trail,
Hmm.
inside Sweet Union Brewery in Indian Trail, and it's a perfect environment for roasting because one of the things that has actually it's kind of been fun has come full circle is uh, now that I started with brewing and now basically the brewing has actually been a large part of the business because I supply coffee beans to many of the Charlotte area breweries that you would know.
Let's throw
Sugar
some name
Creek,
out. Yep.
yeah, Sugar Creek, their Mocha Java Porter, my beans have been in there. Just recently, I've had 3 beers at Triple C,
Hey,
and Ass Clown Brewing up in Cornelius. That's
ass
their.
clown. You heard it.
That's right. That's right. Their slogan's amazing. It's drink one, don't be one.
Oh my God.
So
I
it's
love that.
great.
Please, Jesus, listen to that, people.
But Sweet Union was one of the ones that I talked with from the very beginning of really starting to roast, and we were collaborating on some new beers and things like that. And that relationship led and grew. And Travis Cottle, he's the owner there. He's amazing. And later we started talking about, okay, what could this be? And when I started talking about getting a bigger roaster, he was like, what about this space, that I have here? And so it's a great environment because it has everything that you need from, and roasting is a lot, and especially when you start into getting the cold brew and things like that. They use some brewing technology. So now I have a space right in a brewery. It is just a beautiful marriage there.
Chris, every time I'm talking with someone, and especially someone who is such a powerful force and entrepreneur like yourself, I'm always thinking about the people who will be listening to you and those people who are sitting in their cars, their homes, and they're thinking, "Can I do it?" So I want to know a little bit about your history. I don't want people to sit here and just look at Chris and go, you know what? Yeah, it would be super easy for him to come up with these ideas and to jump into this and to launch into this. I want to kind of take it back a little bit. Can
Mm,
you tell us where you were born and raised? I know there are two different
yeah.
places, but one was for a short period. But if you don't mind, I want people to know a little bit about your history so that they understand that you're not where you are just because of ease, that you are who you are, and you've done a lot to push through the veil to be you, and to keep pursuing the things that you dream of.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a unique story. My dad was in the Air Force, and I was born in Cocoa Beach, Florida. And you know, we shortly thereafter moved uh, to Holland, and
Mm-hmm.
so I spent much of my growing up years in the Netherlands. Went to a Dutch school. I thought I was Dutch until we moved unceremoniously back to the United States in fourth grade, and I promptly got put into special education classes because I did not know how to write English or do English math or anything like that. I truly was a Dutch boy. And
Oh.
so I still speak Dutch. Ik kan nog een klein beetje Nederlands spreken. For those of you that are Dutch on the line,
What does that mean?
I still speak a little bit of Dutch.
I love it. I love it. I
Um,
love it.
but yeah, it was it was a crazy experience coming to the United States. We were only here for a year. We went to the most temperate climate, as you can imagine, Holland. Never got above like 75 or 80.
I don't know much
Uh,
about Holland. Is that
it's
Holland has a
just
very
it's
even
very,
temperature?
very flat. It's like where all cheeses are made. It's a lot
Okay.
of farm country, and I lived out in the country. A lot of people think Amsterdam. I actually lived out in the country. I biked back and forth to school every single day because they don't have school buses there. You bike
Hmm.
everywhere, and that was just life, and that's what I thought life was all the time. And we moved, and I actually had the incredible experience. I lived in a mansion with a bunch of other GI families in that area, and had hundreds of acres to play in, which is pretty uncommon for Holland. But I just thought that's what life was. And when we moved to the United States, we moved to Phoenix, Arizona.
Ooh.
So go from like the most like, cold climate or whatever to Phoenix, Arizona, 115 degrees
Ooh.
into a duplex
Desert.
housing on base.
Ooh.
So it was quite the shock, and I don't think my parents realized it really, what that did to us and to me particularly at
What
the
did that make
time.
you feel? What
Um,
do you call it?
it took looking back on it, you don't realize it when you're going through it, but it definitely had a hit on my self-esteem, like major, major, major.
In what
Uh,
regard?
well, I was being put into special ed classes, as you can
Hmm.
imagine. It wasn't regarded that I spoke, two languages, as something special. It was, here
You weren't
comes,
smart.
here's the village idiot,
Hmm.
going in, being taken out of the class, and all the kids, they're at that age, fourth, fifth grade, are just brutal. You know what I mean? And
Cruel.
they were
Cruel.
just
You can't get
making
any crueler.
no, and just completely making fun and of me for having to go to special ed classes and not knowing how to write
Right.
English,
And in special ed, it's like they're reading the blue book, you got the red book, you're not reading the same stories. It's the worst. I know. They put
yeah,
me in special ed too when I came to America
yeah.
in third grade.
I kind of laugh because I got the ultimate revenge, right? Because now I'm in communications and lead communications for a very large system, and yeah, that's kind of humorous to me now, looking back on it, thinking I got put into
Right.
special ed for communications, but now I lead communications for
I
a
love,
large organization.
which is hope, you guys. That's hope. That just shows you. Chris, do you feel like your particular history gave room and encouragement for you to be this kind of entrepreneur who really wants to make an impact in this world? Do you think that your childhood set you up for that?
I think so. I think what it did for me was allowed me to see, it allowed me to uh, expand beyond my, kind of normal imagination. We didn't have TVs growing up that much in Holland, especially. We didn't have I don't remember ever having a TV there. But I think that allowed me to kind of have to think beyond like what most people grow up with and find other
Sure.
ways to expand my mind.
Hmm.
And so I think that, I think for me, I was just always thinking, there's got to be something better than this,
Hmm.
and so I've never been one to back down from a kind of a challenge, so to
Hmm.
speak. And so there's so many things in life, that come up that I had no business maybe taking some jobs. I used to work for Walmart corporate. So
Hmm.
before this, before moving to Charlotte, actually they moved me to Charlotte. Walmart did, but I used to work for Walmart, in Bentonville, Arkansas, and I thought, wow, how in the world did I end up at Walmart? And I think how I got at Walmart was just, one, through my wife. She's amazing, and she's in communications as well. And so I was the trailing spouse,
Yeah.
and we ended up there. But two, like the jobs was like, wow, this is pretty nuts. But I went for it.
That you said that to me one time when we were over at your house. You're like, you know what? Something that I see that I did was I went after things that I absolutely wasn't qualified for, that were way too big for me, were way beyond my knowledge base, but I just went after it, thinking, whatever.
Yeah, it has been. It's something that, I mean, I don't know. I hope it's not arrogance, because that's not
No.
what I want to be. But like, there, looking back, you do think, man, one, directed by God, right? God ordains these things, and
Hmm.
I think that, I think that, but it takes us and the initiative to kind of go after them, and I think
Hmm.
that was things I never like shied away from. Just, there were things that I was like, that could be really neat. I think I can do that. I'm pretty sure I can, and if
Hmm.
not, I'm gonna have fun learning, and I would
Yeah.
just jump in with both feet. And I think that's kind of been my life a little bit, of just even the roasting thing. It's like,
Hmm.
who knows about roasting? Self-taught along the way. I've had a couple classes then when I took, but that was after I was in with both feet.
What do you think? Is there a situation or an experience in your childhood or even young adulthood that when you look at it, you go, man, that thing primed me for leaping into what I'm doing? Or what I guess what I'm trying to get to is, I know, do you think that you were raised in an overly encouraging an environment that told you you could do whatever you wanted to do?
Oh no.
Right. That's what I'm trying to get to. I know that's not the case. So I want to know, how were you able? Right. We're laughing because we kind of know, but what you're saying is you were not raised in an environment that just naturally told you, Christopher, whatever you want to do, you can do it.
No, I mean, sadly, I think being part of a military household, and a lot of, I think, people in military can relate to this, is just the perfectionism that exists,
Hmm.
of you must do everything exactly this way, and it's my way, and this is how it has to be done. And so, and I suffer a little bit from that myself. I used to call myself a recovering perfectionist, because
I call myself a
perfectionism,
recovering people pleaser.
it can't be obtained, right? Perfectionism
Yeah.
can't be obtained. And so I think that, I do like excellence, though. Like, I think when
Hmm.
people talk about excellence, I strive for excellence, because I do think that's important and something
What
that
does
people
excellence
miss.
mean to you?
I think it's just not doing things halfway.
Hmm.
Like, a job worth doing is a job worth doing well.
That's
And
right.
if
How
that
you
kind
do
of is your
anything is how you
self,
do everything.
if you're motivated by doing the right thing, instead of doing something just good enough, I think that has kind of been what I've kind of, it's my life's motto a little bit. But I do think, growing up, I when I went to college, I had no self-esteem. I thought I was an idiot. I thought I was
Hmm.
stupid. I thought, all those things. And maybe on the exterior, people like, oh, he has his stuff together. But I think through college, I think, again, God used that as an opportunity for me to have friends like yourself, like others in my life, that really, like, hey, this, I realized I wasn't an idiot, and I
Hmm.
realized I actually had some valuable skills to add to, the world. And I think now it's kind of like that same thing that I want to do, is help others,
I
and
see
um
that.
and see that same thing.
That is awesome. Chris, when do you think you had the chutzpah to go, you know what? I'm not an idiot. I'm going to jump into it. And what are some things that made you feel that made you, you know, whatever we're raised with
Hmm.
becomes our norm.
Yeah.
It's like we don't realize it's not normal until we're in a situation that challenges it outside of our space, and we're like, oh, that's not how people do it.
Hmm.
I thought that everybody did this way. So you're
Yeah.
raised in this environment that's perfectionistic, that is probably limited, because I mean, perfectionism will limit you, because
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
nothing there's nothing you can do that will end a perfect result. So it
Hmm.
will make you stop trying. You will just like try to stay right here just so that it can stay perfect. So I want to know, at what point did you go, I am so tired of thinking I am not enough.
Yeah.
I have got to be perfect. At what point did you decide, this is not who I want to be, and this is not how I want to lead my life? Because one thing I see about you, Christopher, is you write a beautiful story. You write a beautiful life story, man.
Well, I mean, a couple of thoughts come to mind. One is I knew growing up this was not the life I wanted to live, and I knew there was something wrong at home. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The stuff that I was seeing, let's call it out, like emotional abuse, physical abuse, those things. I knew it wasn't right.
Hmm.
And I knew there was a better life out there. I just instinctively, it was like, this isn't what life is supposed to be like.
Mm.
And so that was very, very clear growing up, and truly I couldn't wait to get out of home.
Hmm.
And I think the great story, is since then I've really had some great conversations with my parents, and been able to talk through a lot of these things. And their story is ridiculous because they're 100% better than their life, you know what I mean, that they grew up. And I think
Right.
that's the part where grace comes a whole lot into,
Hmm.
of realizing I did stupid things growing up too. I'm sure I've done stupid things in my adult life with my own kids that
Right.
that I do regret, and that I hope don't leave lasting,
Me too.
things on them. But like, I think that, I think it was truly in college where, that again, like that's why I'm such a fan of college and getting
Me
out
too.
of the home to really realize who you are as a person,
Hmm.
and surround yourself obviously with the people that can. I think that's you always tell your kids that you got to find the right friends that will have the right influence on your life, and in college, truly, because those are such important times of making sure that you have people that are speaking into your life the right way. And so I think that was the
I'm a
turning
fan of
point, so
college
to
too.
speak.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So that was a turn. I'm a fan of college just like you. I care less about even what your educational pursuits are. I just think it's a time where you really come into your own suchness. Like
Yeah,
whatever you are trying to be, you get to flex it,
that's right.
and figure that out.
Yeah, you do.
Chris,
You get to work out all kinds of things that you kind of had these theories in your mind, and you screw up along the way, you know what I mean? But you are the
yeah.
one that have to live with them, not, like your parents having to like correct or whatever. You're the one that has to actually figure those things out.
Right. And I going to college, we met people who came from families that no one had gone to college before, so
That's
they
right.
have different experiences too. And it just challenges whatever is your family norm is challenged in university, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is something that you remember being afraid of, Chris, that you're no longer afraid of, or as you started pursuing you as corporate
Yeah.
Christopher, as entrepreneur Christopher, you realize, like, oh my God, I never needed to be afraid of that thing. What is something that you feared that you now realize you never needed to be afraid of?
Well, that's pretty easy. I was a severe, like most people would have thought I was an extrovert a lot of times, just because I'm generally a nice guy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm friendly, but deathly afraid of being around people I did not know in large groups. Like,
Really?
I just would feel so out of my
I did not know
comfort
that.
zone. And actually that's one of the things that Shauna's a severe extrovert. And so she would bring me to these, I think, early in our dating relationship, and then in our
I remember them
marriage.
dating across the campus, y'all. Go on.
we would be like, I think she'd be embarrassed, quite honestly, to bring me to places because I just didn't know how to interact with people I didn't know. I love my small group of friends, you know what I mean? Like true introverts.
Hmm.
But it
What did
was
that
it
look like? When you say she would be embarrassed, what do you think that your behavior looked like that would warrant her being embarrassed?
I think just not her feeling like she had to be with me all the time for me to feel comfortable.
Hmm.
Her not being able to, go and mingle with the crowd and everything, because she knew that what I would do is just kind of like back up and be like, I'm going to hang out in this corner over here for a little bit. And I think that, I mean, definitely that is completely changed. And she always,
Hmm.
like, it's kind of our ongoing joke. We just celebrated our 20-year anniversary,
Woo!
and
When?
this last May
Oh,
27th. Yeah,
oh.
we were supposed to go to Italy, but COVID had other ideas.
But then what had happened was, yeah.
But yeah, I think now I call myself an omnivert, because I can
Hmm.
switch between extrovert and an introvert, kind of depending on what's happening. But I feel so much more comfortable in who I am, to be able to just strike up conversations with people, try to still be authentically me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and really just connect with people in meaningful ways. And that's one of the reasons that I love coffee so much, because coffee tends to lead you to really cool conversations. People have a cup of coffee and they just have to pause for a little bit while they're drinking their coffee. And I think that's one
Ooh.
of the things I just love about the idea, coffee, tea, whatever. If you're drinking something, you're not running around scurrying everywhere. You actually just,
Mm-mm.
you're sitting there.
It's an
You're,
intimate thing, isn't it?
yeah.
What is a cool, you make me want to ask you a question of a good conversation. What is a really interesting or cool conversation interaction you had over a cup of Java?
Oh gosh. I mean, there's so many conversations
I'm
that
sure there is.
I've had, but I think some of them are, I mean, go back even thinking about, some of the things that happened earlier this year with
Hmm.
the racial unrest and
Yeah.
things that were happening across the
Oh.
country, and being able to just like open people's eyes a little bit. I know Shay, you helped me with that a little bit, of
Oh.
helping me understand what privilege is and how you see privilege, and something I never quite understood, because, like you mentioned, I grew up in kind of like this weird life, and
Mhm.
certainly I
It
wouldn't
was
say
harsh.
a
Yeah.
privilege,
Hmm.
yeah. And
It was
so,
harsh. It was difficult. It was
yeah,
demeaning at times. There was a lot
yeah,
of things, not to give words in, not to put words in your mouth or to tell too much of your story, but I know it wasn't
yeah.
this easy road.
Yeah, and so when people would talk about privilege, I would just have this kind of knee jerk, like, what do you, privilege?
Hmm.
Nobody handed anything to me,
Correct.
and so, but you helped me understand a little bit more about what that actually, what people of color deal with on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
and that was, and I try to share that story a lot with people, and I think that's been some of the more meaningful things that have come out of, just having real conversations, as opposed to like these surface level
Mm.
conversations, and that's been fantastic for me.
You know, recently, this is a segue that's going to probably seem a little odd, but recently I was watching Trevor Noah, and he said, the most truthful moment of all people, our most honest and truthful moment is when we're taking a crap, because it doesn't matter who we are. It doesn't matter if you're the president, if you're the queen. Everybody takes a crap. Everybody sits there on this throne, and humanity is leveled. You cannot have any. You cannot have any airs about you. You can't have any like properness about you. You are a human being who has taken a crap. And I think what I like also about the conversations that come around coffee or our drinks is that in that moment, you're not anything. You're not anything more. You're not anything less. You are a person who is taking a drink. So for me, it's another one of those leveling moments. Like there's nothing that I am doing that's more anything that's more elevated than you or less elevated. I'm having a drink. And I think that might be why coffee creates that,
Hmm.
that time, or having a tea. Like when you look at I'm a big fan of National Geographic. So when you look at a lot of the images that they will show around the world, I mean, they can show these little Turkish villages, and people are sitting there around their tea or their deeply, dark coffee, or whether it's
Yeah.
just these simple things in life. I think the more simple you go, the more level it becomes. So I think, as in taking a crap is a leveling thing, having a drink is a leveling thing.
Yeah, and I think, for me, the important thing about coffee is, like, coffee's, that there's that one aspect of it, but as our kind of our slogan is we have a passion for coffee
Mm-hmm.
and a love for people. And that
Mm-hmm.
love for people extends, you know, exactly to what you're talking about, of having these conversations, finding out more about their life story, what impact can we have, if they're there have been conversations that have struck up, and that's how a lot of the groups that we support come out of those is, hey, we have an orphanage in Uganda that we really, we're not getting the support that we hope from, and we have, what can we do? And from that, we have the Everybody Fed blend that,
Can you tell
where
everybody about the Fed blend?
Yeah, so Everybody Fed is a 501c3, 100% underwritten, where a lot of these organizations that you hear about, like a lot of it goes to administrative costs and things like that. Actually, a bunch of guys from our college that we went to started this and fund it to basically cover all administrative costs. So 100% of the money actually ends up at the orphanage, which is unbelievable, right? Because you don't find that anytime.
How do you guys even know to create the structure that would allow that type of giving?
There's several very smart guys that I'm sure if I mention their names that have been involved in that, and I think it's, again, a passion as they see it, wanting to have a bigger impact on the world than just their day-to-day job, and that type of thing is really appealing to me because, again, making sure the money actually goes to. I've had lots of organizations approach me like, hey, will you do this? Hey, when you look into it, you're like, that money ain't ever going to get to the people who's supposed to impact, or maybe 25 cents out of the whatever.
Right.
And where a lot of coffee places are like, hey, I'm going to, donate $1 for every bag sold. There's many bags where 100% of the money goes straight to the organization. And so that's what we try to do with the Everybody Fed blend is, the money goes straight to the organization, and it's just another way for me to give back to, things that are important. We have to have a bigger impact on this earth than just live in our day-to-day lives. We have to. And that's just one of the ways.
And why do you think we have to?
Well, I don't think, I tell my communications team this all the time. At the end of time, I truly don't believe when I stand before God that God's going to say, you did an amazing job writing that communications plan for XYZ.
Right.
I just can't imagine he's going to be like, yeah, you wrote a really good comms plan, and that PR that you did around this issue, you nailed it.
Tight. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
I think the question is going to be is whose life has you impacted, or how many lives have you impacted?
Did you love?
Did you love? And I think that's really what motivates me a lot in my day-to-day journey, and then obviously in my coffee journey as well. And it really recenters me every time I get way too upset about a particular issue, or the media mischaracterizing, something that's happening, which happens all the time.
Right.
And it's just one of those things that keeps me grounded and centered of thinking from an eternal perspective. There's a whole lot more that we need to do on this earth before we get to the next life.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, Chris. Tell me this, Chris. The organization in Uganda, it is an orphanage. Like, you guys are feeding these kids and supporting them and taking care of them. How large is do you know how large the orphanage is? Just out of curiosity.
It's fairly large. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's in Jinja and Uganda, and they take street children, and it's obviously a really big, societal problem there. It's like, if you don't want your kids, you just push them out on the street. And so they find them and they bring them into their orphanage there. And, the economies of scale of what $1 can do there is unbelievable. Right. And they've been a little bit limited, obviously, with COVID and stuff, where they used to have trips over there and things, but now they're really making sure that the money, keeps on flowing so that they can continue to do this and take kids off the street, get them in a healthy, health starts by having a roof over your head, and shoes on your feet, and things like, and clothes, and
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're trying to get these fundamental things in. So, Chris, how do I support that? Like, if I buy this coffee from you, I'm supporting that?
That's right. Or you can give directly to them. Everybodyfed I think it's a .org,
Mm-hmm.
is where you can give directly to them. Certainly, what I always tell people that when I look at partnering with them, a lot of times people do like to get something for their money.
Yes.
And hey, people love coffee. Most people love coffee, or they love to give it as gifts, even if they don't love it themselves. So it's just a great avenue to make sure that when you're buying something, you're supporting something bigger than just someone's side hobby.
Where does one buy this coffee from? Where does one buy your coffee?
Sure. So we have it's our main place is sugarcreekcoffee.com,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see a huge variety of coffee
Can I order
selections
it
there
like across the country?
across the country.
Okay.
I ship more across the country than actually here locally,
Mm-hmm.
and but there's several places throughout Charlotte that are listed also on the website where you can buy them in retail locations. But they're also at the actual roastery inside Sweet Union Brewing. There's always fresh bags there. Every Thursday night, it's kind of a fun experience. We roast for the public and show them the whole process of what a green coffee bean. I know many of you are like, what? Coffee starts out as green beans? It
I
does. It
know.
starts out as, they're actually seeds. They're actually seeds that are in little coffee fruit. They look like cherries. And when they're pulped, they turn out into green beans. We call them
Wow.
beans, but they're actually seeds. And that's what I roast. And we order them from all over the world. I mean, like I said, I have probably 5 varieties from, Ethiopia, and I have, everywhere else in between, your typical Colombia, Brazil, but we have Sumatra and Uganda and Kenya. I mean, well, you name it, we have it probably, and we have some very, very special coffees. But we work really, really carefully to source them ethically as well. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a really important thing because, like, why would we have a mission of like,
Helping people
helping people when we're like also
using
not
3 year
doing
olds. Yeah.
exactly.
Get in
So
that
we
field,
work.
3 year old. Yeah.
That's right. So we work very, very carefully to make sure that wherever we source them from, they have co-ops in place, they have sustainable farming, they have all of those things that basically make sure that whoever is getting the actual money, that it is, helping their life out as well.
The other night when your family was over for dinner and we were just chatting, one thing that you said was like, Shay, I'm kind of like at this space where I, I'm trying to level it up. Like it can just take off and be like this hugely successful thing. But I also have this full-time job. So where are you with that? And
Yeah.
what would make that easier for you?
Yeah, I think, the big thing is, I have an incredible job, an incredible team, and at Atrium Health, and those are things that keep me going all the time.
Sure.
And it's certainly not all the issues that you have to deal with all the time. That it's like, but the team is amazing, and just those are the things that really I enjoy. And uh, but I think the thing with the coffee is, like you said, it is getting to be more and more people are wanting it.
Yeah,
They're
this
they're
side
seeing,
hustle is
yeah,
quickly becoming a main hustle. So I want to know, what
yeah,
does Christopher need to help that be easier for you, or to help you take it to
yeah.
level it up like you would like to without depleting from what you are doing at Atrium?
I think it always comes down to good people.
Hmm.
Finding people who are as passionate as I am about coffee and about finding those special people who really want to get kind of have that owner's mindset,
Hmm.
that really want to get involved into a business and not just there for a paycheck, not
Hmm.
just there for, but really trying to figure out how to grow a business and think like an owner, so to speak, and really take it to kind of that next level.
You hear that,
And
people? That's what he's looking for.
and I think it's something that in the future I think that, and obviously money, has it's been very blessed so far to be doing everything debt free, and so as I think about the next steps of cold brew is a very hot market right now, and that's
Hmm.
something we have a cold brew machine that's not cheap, and want to make sure that we have the right distribution on that. We also have a K-Cup machine that produces 1,000 K-Cups an hour. No other roaster that I know of in the Charlotte area is doing K-Cups, most delicious K-Cups ever.
And we can get
And
this on your
very,
website as well.
yeah, and very environmentally friendly as well. So that's a lot of people worry about that. These are biodegradable and made from recycled material, all of those great things.
Chris, you are amazing. A year from now, where would you like to see Sugar Creek?
Yeah, it's a good question. Been toying with that with one of my main roaster, and really my partner in crime through this whole thing. It's also his side hustle.
Mhm.
He's considered like partnership with him, and
Mhm.
he's a teacher actually at Porter Ridge, Noah Setzer, and he's amazing. And I
Hey,
could never
Noah.
do any of this stuff without him. But he and I talk about this all the time, and again, I think he loves teaching and he's incredible at it. That's his passion. This is also his passion. So we're always trying to figure out like how do we merge
The
things? How do
two.
we? But I think, a year from now, what we'd love to see is that we have scaled appropriately, while keeping customer service kind of at the core of what we do. We are obsessed with customer service,
As you
and
should be. It's the
yeah,
only thing that keeps people coming back for more, or it's the thing that will make you never see a person again.
that's been always the fear of like
Hmm.
being able to get too big too fast,
Hmm.
and not being still obsessed with customers and with making sure. And that doesn't mean that the customer is always right, because they're
Right.
not.
They're
it
not,
but it
because
does
sometimes
mean
they're
doing.
crazy.
They are crazy.
Sometimes they are.
Yeah, they are. And but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do everything we can to make that experience the stuff that we can
Elevate the
control.
experience.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
that's our desire, is scale at the right rate, scale at the to where we can still keep that customer service at the level that the customer demands it,
Hmm.
and that we demand it for ourselves.
Chris, what is the one thing that being a father and the type of father that you are and the type of father that you're committed to being, what is the one thing that being a father has given you, has changed your mind on?
Oh man. I think I always thought having some boys would be amazing, and God gifted me with two amazing girls, and I could not be. I mean, they are certainly daddy's girls, even at
Oh,
teenagers.
they are.
Um, I just got this letter from my daughter for Christmas, and instead of giving me a gift, she wrote me this letter, and I mean, it's bringing me to tears right now. I
I
mean, it's
know.
just like, it's just everything that I wanted to be as a dad, and all of those things that I thought could be. It's just been beautiful walking this out, and not saying I'm perfect in any way, because, I
That's
mess up
not even the
along the
point.
way.
Yeah, because you're human.
But, but I think the concept of grace,
Mm.
and just knowing, one, it has taught me a lot about what my parents went through, because there's definitely frustrating moments with my kids.
Right. Where you're
And
like, I get it. I don't condone
yeah,
killing your children, but now I understand why somebody would want to feel like they want to. Right?
but I think also that personal responsibility of like, just because you had feelings to do something, abusively, doesn't mean you have to. And
Right.
but I think there's so many moments that I just have to take a deep breath and learn and figure out, what is this learning moment that I could either make this a really horrible sort of, memory for my child, even though they've
Yeah.
done something that's really bad,
Yeah.
or I could turn this into a moment where they'll actually remember it for a good reason, because I didn't lose my crap over it,
Yeah.
and I actually
I'm still
chose
working
that
on that.
moment to kind of, have a you know conversation or whatever it is, to help them truly understand the impact of their decision.
Hmm.
And but I think for me, it's just, I think grace has been an ever present, kind of thing in my life.
Hmm.
Um, God gave me an extra dose of it growing up to make me, by all rights, I should probably be in some crazy home or something
Hmm.
like that,
Hmm.
but I'm not. And I want to just make sure to continue to, just, um, you know, live my life, you know, bless those around me,
You
and
do.
then just continue to, you know, hopefully, again, make a bigger impact on this world than what it was before I came here.
So the thing that I'm going to extrapolate from that is what your children have taught you is that you do not have to do it how it was done to you, and that you actually have the capacity to be everything that you really hoped you could bring to the position of a father. And they've allowed you to see that. They've allowed you to see this part of yourself. I feel like Kai has allowed me to see the same.
Yeah, I think you know, if you want to, on a spiritual side, it allows me to understand how a heavenly Father
Hmm.
sees his children,
Yeah,
and for me, it's very similar.
it's
And
quite redemptive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I really appreciate this. We're going to come to my last like 5 questions in the spirit of James Lifton. Okay, one. What is the one thing you would want people to take away from this conversation between us, Christopher?
I mean, I good question.
It's all
I
right.
think I think that for me, it's I hope in some ways that people are on the fence about doing something that they didn't think that they could do, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a new job, whether it's a hobby, whether it's something that they just jump in with both feet if they can,
Mm-hmm.
and just do it. And if it fails, it fails.
That's right.
Um,
Success is not linear.
no, and but at least you did it. You don't have to like later wonder, man, what if? And that's what I don't want to have is these what ifs in my mind. I've
Right,
been with that
right.
with all my jobs and things like that. It's just when opportunities present themselves, jump in.
That's
Don't
right.
let fear be the dictator of what you do or don't do.
I love it. What sound or noise do you love?
Sound or noise. Um,
And I know you have tinnitus. I know
uh,
because my husband has it too.
um, you know, taking it back to coffee, I love the sound of the beans cracking when they get to
Ooh.
first crack. When they get to actual drinkable
Ooh.
coffee when you're roasting them, they have a
Uh-huh.
sound like popcorn actually, and it's and I love that sound every single time I hear it. I think it's just fascinating because every bean actually pops at a different level and sound and velocity, all those type of things.
Nerd. I love you.
Uh,
What sound or noise don't you love?
oh, has to be fingernails on a chalkboard.
It's terrible. Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. Terrible. Chris, if you weren't doing what you're doing right now, what would you be doing?
Um, hmm. Just as a job or
Yeah, or yeah,
oh
as a job. If you weren't doing professionally, head of communications,
yeah,
what would you be doing?
well, I do love photography. I mean, that's one of my other like side
Yeah.
hobbies, and I think that has been always like I love traveling, so maybe a photojournalist of some type. I love that type of work, and I've always thought that would be a lot of fun is to be some type of a photojournalist, that type of thing.
I love it. What's your favorite word?
Oh, excellence.
I like it. What's your favorite curse word?
You have to ask my wife that one. Probably damn it.
Damn it, you're so good. You're so good. I had another person, they were like, hell. And I was like, ooh, you dirty girl, you. Yeah, damn it. I love it. Damn it and hell. These are good. These are good ones. Chris, what? oh, okay. There's this other question that I wanted to ask you.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. What is a great book or a great movie from 2020 for you?
Oh man. Uh Gosh. So I'll be honest, I'm not a big book reader.
I
A
get
lot
it.
of people ask what books you read. I really don't have time to read books.
I get it. I get it. I get it. Podcasts are
uh,
where it's at. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I would say, I will say this. There was a book that I listened to
Audible.
on Audible, and I think it was called Imagine Heaven.
Mm.
I think that's what it was named. But it was this fascinating, fascinating documentary of um, near-death experiences
Yeah.
compiled in a scientific way that basically show very much the similar theme of what we're talking about of people throughout history, and that have been really scared to talk about what they experienced because they didn't want to be called kooks
Or
or freaks or
crazy.
anything like
Hmm.
that, but shared a very similar from across the world, across religions, across many things
I
that
know.
basically share basically a very similar
Experience.
experience. And it is fascinating. And again, one of the questions that they were asked was, you know, who did you love? What
Hmm.
experience, what did you do while you were on Earth? Those type of things. And but anyways, it was that was one book I really 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 enjoyed. And
Mm.
it is just an interesting thought process. And but yeah, the very very similar experiences no matter where they came from in life.
I
um
love that. I love that. Which is a beautiful segue for my last question for you. If heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get there?
well, I definitely believe it exists. And I think that um I think in the true, biblical sense, well done, my good and faithful servant. I think that would be everything I could imagine. Um, and
Hmm.
yeah, I think that would be incredible.
Chris, man, I really appreciate you sharing time and space with me. I really appreciate you encouraging my heart and other people's hearts. It's been an awesome time with you.
This has been great for me. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, Chris, you have a beautiful day.
Thanks so
Happy New
much. Much
Year.
love to you all and your family.
You too.
All right.
Peace.